Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Betterhumanology podcast. My name is Jerred Moon, and with me is my man, as always, Talon Schwam. What's up, Talon?
What's up, Jerred? What's up, everyone?
So today we have a very fitting topic for the Betterhumanology podcast because we're talking about how to make those around you, whether it's friends, family, spouses, children, whatever, how to make those around you better, make them better humans. But I think before we can even talk about that, I want to ask Talon why it even matters. Because if you do look at it from a selfish standpoint, if you're making yourself better every day, you're working out, you're waking up early, you're challenging yourself mentally, you're doing all the things that you believe are going to make you better, why on earth would it matter that the people around you are getting better as well? So, Talon, why does that even matter?
Oh, man, this is like the question. Right? Like, why care at all? And for me, it's because we're all in it together. I mean, recently, even though I'm not going to take a stance on any political position, of course, this time, even though it's a heated point in our country right now, recently I heard one of the candidates say, my spirituality is the human condition. And when you hurt, when your kids hurt, I hurt. And that just seemed like really resonate with me. I feel like we are all in it together, and it kind of fits that phrase, and the human condition is what we're all dealing with. And so, I mean, if we can help make everybody else have it a little bit easier, become a little bit better.
So if you make the so to bring that back down to the micro level, Talon always goes macro, and I bring it back down.
I can't help it.
No, I love it. I bring it back down to micro. So it's kind of like the whole, if mommy ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Right. So,
by really being aware of your situation, now going back to macro, of your friends, family, community, what you're a part of, a bigger picture, if we're making all of that better, everyone happier, more positive, more confident, then we're just going to live better lives, is what you're saying. It
benefits everyone, yeah.
All right, man. So we have taken on a huge chunk here. We have maybe bit off more than we can chew trying to tell people how to make those around them better. But I do think that we have a little bit of experience. This is something that you and I have been fascinated with and studied for a long time. Being, officers in the military is something that we're forced to work with on a daily better and ask that question on a daily and weekly basis is how are we going to make, the individuals, who work for me or under me, how are we going to make them better, but not be that overarching tyrant that everyone hates? How can we actually get the best out of people?
Right.
And so it's a topic that you and I really, really enjoy. And so I'll just start by saying, in your experience, what do you think are some of the principles that you need to try and get out of people to make them better? Like I said, without being the dick.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's difficult because you want to try to impact people. And to do that, you have to kind of impose on them, right? Because you want to try and help them take on maybe some of the ideas you have about some of the knowledge about how to become better or to live happier or to live better. So yeah, it's difficult because you have to try and not overstep those boundaries, right? And so for me, some of the kind of tenets that I have kind of put down how I feel like I can make others better. Are four of these here. The number one I say is to empower them. And so really what I mean by that is really just, try and build up people's confidence. Validate them on the things that they're good at, their strengths, their passions, and their values, and remind them of some of those things. So if they're like, if your buddy's he always is, very loyal and he's about to make a decision where, he's about to stab somebody in the back, maybe just shooting that text where, hey, that's not who you usually are, kind of thing. Just small things like that sometimes can help really empower people to remind them to be better and to be themselves as well. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
I think that empowering people is huge because it's almost like the what's that movie, Inception.
Oh yeah.
If you can get in on that deeper level, and I'm not talking about. Hopefully that doesn't. The word doesn't offend anyone, but manipulating people in a positive way, using their own their own selves against them, as you said. Like if you're shooting your buddy a text to, that's not the type of person you normally are. You are manipulating the situation,
Right.
but you're manipulating them in a positive way using principles or terms that they've already set with themselves, and you're just kind of holding them to that better human standard. So I think that's huge, man.
That's exactly it. And I think, manipulation, even just the word can be misconstrued sometimes because the way we're using it in this sense, absolutely, is just to try and help, massage the situation a little bit to help make them become a better human. And part of that's being themselves, right? Like we talked about. But another one I have up here, I think is pretty obvious, is to be not just a good example, but to be a healthy example. And what I mean by that is, we talk about on the show a lot about, physically, we talk about mentally and emotionally. And, I think spiritually is probably something that is in there that you want to be a good, healthy example for as well. But we don't usually hit on that in this show. But I think those are very important. I think you have to live it, I think, to try and even, expect someone to try and live it as well. I mean, I think that's a pretty obvious one. What do you think, Jerred?
So you're saying walk the walk, talk the talk?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And that's something we're going to get into when I bust out the book. I have a book open and in my hands right now.
Of course you do.
Challenge just waiting to... He already knows what's coming, but and you guys will hear it soon. But basically, being the pace setter, being the person who... sets the example, who's, trying to go a little bit faster and be a little bit better. I think it can be motivating, but it does have its downfalls, which I want to talk about in a minute. But
okay.
I think it's good.
Maybe we'll get a little heated on this show and we'll have some debating between Jerred and I, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Right.
So Talon and I are expert arguers. It's something we've done a majority of our friendship. And I think that, in all honesty, we could probably have a whole show on arguments because... I guess it's healthy debates, right? But I know that
absolutely.
Talon and I have been in so many situations publicly where we would be, I'll say, debating something, and people would be like, "Dude, you guys need to chill out. Like, you're making me uncomfortable, whatever." And neither one of us would be uncomfortable. We'd be perfectly fine with the situation because that's just our nature and our friendship.
We're just passionate guys. Passionate about what we believe and making people better, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, one of the other things that we've talked about on the show, I mean, we had a whole show dedicated to leadership. I mean, I remember I brought on my dad for that show, and it was great. But, I feel like it's important to be a leader if you're going to try and, help others around you to change. And that's not, it's part of that is not being afraid to share the knowledge that you have and share sometimes the knowledge that you learn on this show. I mean, maybe some of it's, not going to be applicable all the time, but I think sometimes, if something fits for, one of your friends or family members that might help impact them and help them become a better human or help them to live happier or change a little bit, then, don't be afraid to stand up and say those kinds of things. I mean, we talked about leadership quite a bit on this show.
Yeah. I mean, I think when the extreme ownership episode we had, I came out and said, you owe it to yourself to lead yourself well and to lead others well. I think leadership is a huge thing, and a lot of people don't see themselves as leaders because they might not be the head of an organization or the head of a team. But
right.
that's not even how leadership works in my brain. You can be a leader at any level, up or down, in your family, with your friends. I mean, leadership is everywhere. And so I do know that I've had conversations with people running businesses who, they might be the only person running their business, and they think that they don't need to focus on studying leadership. And I'm like, well, no, leadership is not once you become the CEO of a company, then you'll worry about leadership. Leadership is a trait every human being has to have for every situation in life. If you plan on being around other human beings at any point in time, that'll be the caveat, which is going to be everyone.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you apply it to everyone, because I feel like, don't think about oh, well, I have my group of friends, say, my little inner crowd's 5 people, and what's his name already has great leadership skills. I don't need to be a leader. We already work really well together as a team. Well, I mean, everyone in that team can be a leader on different things or on different subjects, or at different times. So don't feel like oh, well, I mean, maybe I don't have the opportunity to be a leader, because you do. You absolutely do.
You do.
Okay, and the last of my 4 points I feel like that really you can help to make others better is really stay open to others' ideas. And we talked about this previously a little bit on one of our shows, but it's more about kind of your approach, I feel like, to people. And if you approach people with that open mind and that openness to their ideas, I think you're much more likely to get that openness reciprocated back to you. And so I feel like that's really an important thing when you're trying to impart ideas and life decisions or, techniques onto others. So if they're going to be more receptive to listen to you, then it's going to be much more likely that they take those into account and then that they do change, do become better. What do you think, Jerred?
Yeah, man, I think, and that's something I'm trying to, my kids are still really young, but just trying to make sure that they always have an open mind about things and approaching new situations and new people and everything. Just, I think having an open mind is it makes your whole life better because you're often thrown in uncomfortable situations. And if you have a closed mind or you're not willing to look at things positively or whatever, then it's not good. Not a good mental state where you're headed.
Yeah, I really think it just makes you more adaptable to whatever situation you're going to be in because you're already kind of a blank slate rather than starting with some kind of preconceived notion.
And from being adaptable comes resilience.
There we go.
There it is. All right, so I have the book in my hands. Multipliers.
Bum, bum, bum.
Multipliers is a book I've read, and when Talon and I decided to do this episode, I just saw it on the shelf, and I'm like, man, this is perfect. This is fitting. Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. Really good book. It's kind of on the business side of things, but I think it has a lot of good information in here that can help you become a better leader and get the best out of people around you. And the whole book is about multipliers. So let me read straight from the book what a multiplier is.
Okay.
That way we're all on the same page. So multipliers are genius makers. Everyone around them gets smarter and more capable. People may not become geniuses in a traditional sense, but multipliers invoke each person's unique intelligence and create an atmosphere of genius, innovation, productive effort, and collective intelligence. So the impact of a multiplier can be seen in two ways. First, from the point of view of the people they work with, and second, from the point of view of the organizations they shape and create.
Oh, definitely.
So that's essentially a multiplier. That's kind of like in my mind what we're talking about in this podcast. How you call it a multiplier, you could call it a better human, but how do you become that person who makes the people around you, twice as good or two times the results, or how do you multiply the abilities that they already have? You're not trying to change anyone. You're just trying to amplify people.
Right.
But then it talks about the five disciplines of the multipliers, because with the multiplier, there's also a diminisher. And then there's also accidental diminisher, which I'll read those two. So 15 total things. So bear with me. But Talon, I think they're really important. So, and it'll go actually really fast. So they say that there's the diminisher the diminisher is bad. You are stifling people,
it's
right?
like the opposite of a multiplier, huh?
Yeah, you're stifling people. The tyrant is what they call it, and it creates a tense environment that suppresses people's thinking and capability. That's the tyrant. The opposite on the multiplier side is the liberator. Creates an intense environment that requires people's best thinking and work. So what do you think about those two, Talon? We got the multiplier, which is the liberator, and the diminisher, which is the tyrant.
I think there's one common denominator between those two.
One is tense, one is intense.
Oh, was it tense for the tyrant? It wasn't intense?
No, so the tyrant creates a tense environment.
Oh,
The liberator creates an intense environment.
I think I misheard the first time when I heard that intense was in both of them. But either way, I think, the intensity that is in the liberator that you talked about, for me, I don't agree. I don't think we're gladiators on the battlefield anymore. I don't know that intensity is what's necessary in a team, unless maybe we are on the basketball court or in the the soccer field or whatever. I mean, I don't see why intensity necessarily needs to be there for the team to get better. But teach their own.
I mean, we did have the conversation in another podcast about the difference between pressure and stress.
We did.
So would you agree that creating pressure, putting pressure on people is a good thing? or you think it's a complete bad thing?
I think it depends. I don't think it's a complete bad thing, but I think it absolutely can be used as a positive.
Okay, good. You know, when I was in pilot training, they brought in this. He's like the best in the Air Force. He's I don't even know what to call him, so I don't want to screw it up. Like he was either a psychologist or you know all those titles for people who operate around the brain. So what are they? Psychologist. What's the other one that's more?
He could be a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist. Yeah.
So he prescribed like medicine.
Well, he was a doctor, but I know you could be a doctor of both probably. But anyway, his whole mission was to study stress on fighter pilots, and he had like this whole program to like cure motion sickness, and he had like a 99% success rate with people in pilot training. But the first briefing you get on the first day, I felt like it was brainwashing 100%. He shows up with like this PowerPoint presentation on how stress is a good thing, you know, and that's all he teaches you that for like 2 hours about how stress is a good thing, but there can be a point where stress is a really bad thing, and he's like, and he had like this spectrum, and he's like, you need to realize where you're at during the course of this year when you're in pilot training, and he would just go over that over again. So he's like trying to like help you like set triggers and points where you know like, okay, I'm stressed, but it's a good thing right now, and like, okay, I'm stressed and it's a bad thing.
Trying to
right
reframe your way of thinking about it.
Yeah,
because if you think, if it gets you thinking to where, you know, you start feeling stressed out, and it's like, okay, it's a good thing, and maybe, you know, for some people that is a good way to refocus you back in, but I'm sure that doesn't work for everyone.
No. And I mean, I think the military does little brainwashing things like that all the time. Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. Say what?
That's what it sounds like to me, because from what I know about stress and what I've learned about stress is it's very detrimental to your body.
Well, I know when I was in our like the field training, which is basically basic training, anyone else would refer to it as, they brought in it was at the point in the training where it was kind of getting, I don't know, stressful, and people wanted to go home and all this other stuff, and then they bring in a POW.
Okay.
Like an actual POW from Vietnam, I think. And
you think this is tough?
Yeah, like, and then because I remember talking to everyone after we had all had conversations previously, kind of like, you know, feeling sorry for ourselves, talking about how much it sucked and blah blah blah. And then he came around, and we were like, oh man, we thought we had it bad. And I'm like, no, but we're not prisoners of war. I was the only one who tried to like point out to people like, no, there's still like things can still have relevancy, you know, like in your situation. But got pretty far off topic now. So bringing it back. So the diminisher is the know-it-all. He gives directives that showcase how much he knows. The challenger defines an opportunity that causes people to stretch. So would you agree with those?
Yes.
So in my mind, that means the challenger is just kind of someone who almost brings an idea, and they like don't even know how to do it or how to solve it. But they're like, this is what I would like done, or this is what we should do. And then they kind of...
I think it's very important to stretch yourself to become better.
So being the challenger, definitely a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah, who likes a know-it-all? That's like just the way they named these, you have to hate them almost. So the diminisher is another diminisher, the decision maker. They make centralized, abrupt decisions that confuse people. And then they have the debate maker, drive sound decisions through rigorous debate.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've all had situations like this happen where somebody comes in, it's like, oh, this is how things are going to be, and then like leaves the room, and everybody's like, what?
Well, shit.
What?
Yeah.
Or I think we've had situations where people come in like, oh, guys, you know, here's a situation, you know, what do y'all think?
Yeah, and let's talk about ways we could, you know, other solutions and opportunities.
Yeah, and it just comes down to that one person, you know. In this situation, us trying to help other people become better humans, making that decision before we I guess decide on, you know, whatever is at hand, you know, are we gonna go bring it up to everybody, to our friends and family, or to the, you know, coworkers, whatever, or are we gonna go ahead and just make the decision? You
know, and there is something to said about being decisive, right? But not just don't be a jerk about, especially if you're in that leadership role, or the role where the decision does fall to you, you know, maybe still open up the dialogue.
Absolutely. I mean, being decisive, I think you're right. There's absolutely something to be said about people who are decisive in making decisions quickly. But I think that it's all important. It's also important for us when we're in the leadership position to remind ourselves that we're part of the team. And I think when we look at it from a team mindset, or we look at the situation like this podcast, this particular episode is like our friends, our family, our people around us that we want to make better as a team, that we all want to make better, we make those decisions much more easier.
Love it. All right, man. This one originally I didn't think is applied as much to our conversation, but I think it does now.
Okay.
So because it is talking, this is a business book, but it's talking, like I said, I think it applies everywhere. There's the diminisher, the empire builder, who hoards resources and underutilizes talent. And then there's the talent magnet, who attracts talented people and uses them at their highest point of contribution. And the way I want to take that away from almost like a business standpoint is just I think that utilizing people, like all your friends, family, they have talents of some sort.
Right.
And you might never think to leverage those or help them refine those talents or anything like that, because they just are who they are to you. And if that's true, then you are the empire builder. You are not the talent magnet or talent utilizer in this case. And I think that that's really big.
And I want to add something real quick to that. Is I think sometimes even not even using those, trying to use those talents or trying to figure out ways to use them, but like what I talked about earlier was just acknowledging those people have those talents and skills sometimes, because
they might not even know it really. Yeah.
Right. And then validating them on that's on who they are and what skills and strengths they have, that just also helps empower them. So, I mean, it doesn't always have to be something difficult where you have to put your mind to how can I use these people's strengths sometimes. Sometimes just being aware of that and letting them know we'll do the same thing.
All right. I agree with you. I couldn't say anything better than how you closed it. All right, diminisher.
Right.
And no one likes a micromanager, so a micromanager drives results through their personal involvement. And then the investor gives other people the ownership for results and invests in their success.
Yeah.
So that one's pretty simple, but what I really, in all honesty, wanted to talk about when I brought this up, because I actually I read the book, and then I was actually at a talk where Liz Wiseman was speaking, and she kind of blew my mind with the information I'm about to go over. And so that's what I really wanted to cover today, so everyone who has made it this far in the podcast is really lucky, because their minds
special
are about to get blown. So there are the multipliers and the diminishers. And Talon, I really want your input on all of these.
Okay.
Because there's a third component that she calls the accidental diminishers. And these are people who are well-intentioned. They have no idea. They don't realize that they are diminishing their people's everything. Like they're diminishers. They don't realize it. And so, yeah, let's talk about it. There are 6 of them. You ready?
Ready.
Okay, number 1. And so these are bad things. Bad things.
Right.
The
accidental bad things.
Accidental bad.
Good intentions.
Number 1 is the idea guy. So this person
he's got great intentions.
This person is always coming up with new plans and strategies, offering new ideas on how to do things better. So I'll leave it there. And then what do you think about the idea guy?
Do you think you and I are both idea guys?
I think we are. And that's what's huge about this, is you and I aren't saying that we aren't diminishers in any way, shape, or form, but we are both idea guys. But if we don't harness a certain side of being an idea guy, it's going to diminish other people. And the problem is that people can't keep up with your ideas. The constant barrage of suggestions will make those around you feel overwhelmed and confused. So you can't be too much of an idea guy. You got to learn. You just have to be really aware of. And I've been in this situation with working for people who just have new ideas every 5 seconds, and it'll take the wind right out of you, because you just don't. You're like, man, what are we doing? So that's the idea guy.
I think it's I think having new ideas all the time is such a great thing, though. I think, it is such a positive. It can be such a plus to any organization or team. But I think it all comes down to awareness.
Yeah, and I don't think that what Liz is saying in this book is to not ever be these things. It's
Right.
just you need to realize that if you are this thing, that you need to control it or be mindful of it, be aware.
Mindful. Oh my gosh, that's such a huge thing. But yes, yeah, I think the more we're aware of it, the more we try to control maybe, because I feel like you're right. Yeah, the idea person can get probably a little out of control if he's or she is really just jumping from idea to idea to idea. So absolutely, I can see that.
All right, next we have always on. This person is always engaged, energetic, and alert. Sounds like a good thing, right?
Yeah.
He thinks his energy is infectious, but when one person's energy takes up the entire room, what happens to everyone else's energy?
He sucks it dry.
He sucks it dry. Do you agree with this one or no? And it's okay if you disagree. That's part of the reason I wanted to bring him up.
I really feel like energy is such an important thing to a team. And I feel like the more positive energy that you bring to a team, the more likely that you're going to impact others positively and they're going to have positive energy as well. So for me, it's difficult. I think there is, it is this, slippery slope, I guess you could say. Because if you bring too much energy, then I feel like you do become the center of attention. It's like, have you seen that Saturday Night Live skit with Mr. Peepers?
Oh, man, it's been a long time.
Oh, but you remember that, right?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
He's like the monkey guy in the red suit, and he's like, bah, bah.
Yeah.
And like, if you could have, they would put other characters on that, show every now and then. But you can never watch any of the rest of them because he was just so outrageous, so ridiculous, so energetic, so all over the place, bouncing off the walls, basically. That
So you're saying
all your
don't be
attention
him.
always went to him. Yeah, and I feel like that's an example of how someone could be so over the top that all the energy and all the attention just goes straight to them.
So I'm going to ask you this question after I introduce a new one every time. So of the idea guy and always on, which one do you think that you are more inclined to being an accidental diminisher?
Me, I feel like I'm both of them, which is scary.
So of the two so far, you're pretty equally accidental diminisher on the idea guy and always on. All right.
Yeah.
All right, so then the third one is the rescuer. So this person doesn't like to see people struggle, fail, or make mistakes. This leader wants to step in and save the day every time there's a problem, but if it's too early and too often, the people around you will never grow.
This is like every parent when their kid's going through school.
Yeah. I mean, and just with how, my wife and I have not debates, but I'm probably the opposite of a rescuer in some cases with my kids, especially like if they fall down or like,
Yep.
And she wants to go.
Gotta learn to swim sometime.
Pick them up or dust them off and everything. And just the other day, she got a little bit mad at me because Graham, my youngest one, he's not even 2 yet. He fell down face first right in front of me, and I just stood there and looked at him and was like, "Come on, get up, buddy." I was nice talking to him.
Poor guy.
But then she was like right behind me, and she's like, "What are you doing? Pick him up." I'm like, "He's fine. He will get up. Like he can do this." And he got up. He was not hurt. He did not cry. He
didn't cry at all.
No, he didn't cry. He fell down and looked at me almost like he expected me to pick him up, and I was like, "No." And that's part of the reason why I didn't, because I knew I could tell he was not injured, and I was like, I'm not gonna entertain this.
You made your 2-year-old a better human already.
Hey, that's what I'm trying to do, right? All right. So of the idea guy, always on, and rescuer, which one can you most identify with right now?
Not rescuer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's probably by far the least, but the other two are still tied.
Okay. Number 4 is pace setter. So this leader makes it a priority to stay far ahead of the group, hoping everyone will follow and work faster to try and catch up. But if the leader gets too far ahead, what actually happens is that people give up, fall back, and become spectators.
I think it's impossible to get away from people like this because there's always, I feel like, one or two hanging around whatever team or organization you're in.
So you're saying it'd be impossible to set a pace that's too fast for other human beings.
What I'm saying is that this is definitely one that I think is one of the more obvious ones because I think there's a lot more of these kinds of people in the world than others.
What, pace setters?
Yeah.
But would you agree that it's a bad thing, or are you saying it's not a bad thing?
No, I can definitely see the negative.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Effects for sure.
Gotcha.
What about you? I think you might be teetering on the pace setter.
Oh, so of the 4, mine is pace setter. That I most of the 4 that we've done so far because,
right.
Especially in I'd say coming up as an officer or in leadership roles,
Right.
I did think that if I was just the best, if I at least could show that to everyone, that everyone on my team would want to do the same. And that is not the case. People do get deflated. And I used to think the same thing in working out. And it wasn't until I transitioned to a leadership role in like fitness in the military that I realized that coming in first place every time, it really actually it makes people not motivated. And then I saw that once I did step to the leadership role and I wasn't actually the one trying to compete with people, I realized that once there were like some guys who always did best, like there's a lot of competition when I first took over, and then the competition kind of diminished once they found out who was going to win, almost every time. That people just kind of stopped. They're like, that guy's going to win every time. Who cares? So
Yep.
I could see that.
I mean, I feel like this kind of ties into other topics we talked about a little bit, or where I was saying, you need to set an example, but at the same time, I think it comes down to the awareness. Like you were saying, like you realized, like, this isn't helping anymore at this point. I don't need to win every time, and I can still probably achieve my goals, at least, for the day to get a workout in, and still not, negatively impact everybody else. So I think, it still comes down to awareness.
Yeah, mindful. So,
Mindfulness.
of the 4, are you still tied on idea guy and always on?
Mindfulness. Yeah.
All right. Number 5, rapid responder.
I think there's times that I'm doing the pace setting stuff, but just not all the time.
Yeah, I think everyone could relate to that one in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Rapid responder. This leader replies to all inquiries immediately. Emails are cleared out of the inbox within minutes. However,
This is my wife.
let's see. Wait. Let's see. I think that if an employee asks if the question in the appropriate amount of time has been given for a thoughtful response. Yeah, so just like I don't relate to this one at all. I'm like having trouble even fully understanding it.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I get it. I'm just saying, like, I don't understand why someone else would want to do that. It's almost, in my mind, like it's almost the pace setter type mentality. As a leader, do you expect everyone else to do what you're doing, or you just really want to be a good communicator?
I think with this one it really should just be called intensity. And this is how it can negatively impact people. Because I feel like this person's so intense that they have to clear out everything immediately. They have to get everything done immediately, get things so squared away immediately that the intensity they create because of that immediacy is what negatively affects people.
And then if the expectation is for, the people around you to do the same, then you're obviously that causes a lot of tension.
No, I think you can be on your own as well and be doing that, and it can still cause intensity and intenseness. And
you're talking about just within oneself, being a rapid responder is a negative.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I gotcha. I'm definitely not a rapid responder. If anyone on the show has ever emailed me, they can attest to that. I am very slow to respond to emails. Sorry.
I've emailed you. You're doing okay with me.
Yeah, maybe. All right, number 6, the last one, optimist. Yeah, right? Accidental diminisher here, being optimistic. So this person is certain that all problems will be solved quickly and perfectly because, hey, how hard can it be? But this kind of attitude can actually make people feel undervalued. When a problem gets solved, it's not because it was easy, but because someone stayed dedicated and determined through the struggle.
Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Okay, how easy? Hey, how hard can it be? We'll just, no big deal. That's not the That's not the optimist. That's the naivist. I don't know what. Like that's.
So maybe you're a realist who thinks he's an
Joker.
optimist.
I don't know what that could be. That's the clown. I don't know what you would call that. I don't think it's the optimist, because I don't think with optimism comes just naivety. I don't think.
Well, I think if you were presented with a really hard situation and you're on a team and someone else is the leader, would you rather the leader come to you and say, I guess it all depends on you as a person, but I am asking you. So if a leader came and was like, look, Talon, we got a lot of freaking work to do. It's going to be really freaking hard. I need to use every bit of your talent and expertise to get this done, and I'm going to put in the same amount of effort, as opposed to someone who just kind of shrugs it off in an optimistic manner. Like, I can see how it comes into play, is what I'm saying, because I would rather someone just be almost straight with me, like, we're kind of in a shitty situation, this is going to be really hard, as opposed to, hey, everything's fine. Like, I know we only have 5 hours to meet this ridiculous deadline, but it's okay. Everyone's going to be okay. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, no, this is going to be really, really crappy, but we're going to get through it.
I see your point, and I feel like what is being talked about in the book, and then what you're explaining is more like empty, positivity, empty optimism. But what I really feel like is optimism is not the opposite of rational or realistic or logical.
Well, that's why I think that you're a realist who thinks he's an optimist.
No, I feel like you can be both. I feel like you can absolutely be both. You can say, hey, I had this really tough problem I need you to help me with. It's going to be really, really difficult. But you know what? We're going to freaking bang it out right now. And you know why? Because because of all such and such and such and such reasons, because of all the background, because I'm going to help, because we're going to get so-and-so, because we've always done it this way, because we always complete it, or because last time we did a really good job. I mean, there's always something you can come up with to still be positive and still be realistic. I just totally and just utterly disagree that positivity or optimism can ever.
No one said positivity, because you can still be positive with. Because I think what you were just saying is almost like what I said. Like, you could be like, "Hey, this is gonna suck, but you know what? We will get it done because you're an awesome person and I'm an awesome person."
Yeah, but you can say that with a smile.
I think maybe it is just the person who is empty, like you said, empty optimism.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know any really overly optimistic people. So I can't. No.
I mean, he's right here on the opposite side.
No, you're not. You're not that optimistic.
I'm not.
You're optimistic for other people, but you're not optimistic for yourself. So it's hard to call you an optimistic person.
I'm extremely realistic with myself and extremely optimistic for everyone else. I think that's
a great quality to have. I mean, it's great to know you. It makes me feel better about myself all the time. But
I didn't even realize until just now. But you're absolutely hit the nail on the head right there.
That's what I do.
Sure.
That's what I do. All right, guys. That concludes this podcast. Really, I hit everything I wanted to. So of those, which one do you most relate with? You're sticking with Idea Guy and Always On?
No, absolutely the optimist. You don't know me at all.
Oh, yeah. I was just trying to push your button there. All right. So that's it, guys. That's the Better Humanology podcast for this week. Go out there, whether it's your friends, your family, your coworkers, do something to try and make them better, but don't fall into any of the pitfalls where, like, you're really just being a jerk.
Empower them, but don't be a dick.
Dude, you could have summed up the whole podcast with that right there. Okay. Empower people, but don't be a dick. That's perfect. All right, we're out.
Later.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.